Okay, I wasn't planning on doing a Tesla video, but Elon Musk just went on another tweet storm, and so I'll cover I'll cover him suing California and saying he's going to leave California now. And now let's do some technical analysis. I'll check out the balance sheet again. This is Brian Lewis with MMT Investing, and things just changed. So Elon Musk comes on Twitter today and says that the the government in California and Alameda County is unelected and ignorant, and they're not going to let him open his factory. So he is moving his headquarters to either Texas or Nevada now. And he doesn't know if he's going to do any production in California again. And he says he's the last car company in California and he's leaving. So I think this is happening. I think this week he is going to move his headquarters, and then I guess he can't really move that whole factory. I don't know. It'd be really expensive to move that factory, but that's what he is doing right now because they won't let him go back to work. And that's going to be big news coming out Monday. So I want to take a look at I guess I should mention the balance sheet. Their balance sheet came out like it looked pretty good because they had less debt and more cash on hand than before, and their cash balance looked okay, where they don't look like they're in trouble right now. Their business model is a little bit suspect in this environment because they're selling electric vehicles, which are less profitable, and they're selling luxury electric vehicles for the most part, which are going to be in lower demand. And now, if they're closing down factories for good, like if they're going to close down this Alameda factory, that's a big deal. So I don't know. I really don't know the outlook on Tesla, but let's just look at the charts here. Tesla's a complicated one. And Elon is not shy on Twitter, that's for sure. So I have this increasing trend line chart kind of set up. Tesla has its own sort of bubble shape to it, and there's this long baseline that would come out to around $40 or something like that. And I know people think that that price as an actual trend line is kind of ridiculous for Tesla, but keep in mind that the other car companies are mostly under $40 a share, and those are car companies that have more profitable, gas vehicles and some electrics. And Tesla is up here, and then we have the main run up kind of bull support line here, and we came down and tested it here, which is impressive. So I'll circle some technical analysis things real quick. We get on the bull support line. I like to draw where I chop the peaks and especially capture the W's. And these W shapes are bear traps, and the bear traps go underneath the bull trend line. And let's pull up the MACD on this. And check it out. So we're on daily candlesticks, and that's a good one to see if it's in bull or bear territory. And Tesla's wild. It's all over the place. Wow. Usually you get the majority of the action on the top half of the MACD, and Tesla's just crazy. It's just back and forth. All right, so let's get into the crash a little bit on this level of the MACD. So Tesla ran up, and they had their own kind of bubble before the everything bubble, and this is the everything bubble here. And Tesla is up higher than the rest of the everything bubble, like this whole section is above where the S&P got to. And we could probably throw a trend line from this thing. And I think that might be a good thing to point out. So I think there's a couple of targets to the upside here for Tesla to get through. And that would be this downward trend line off their peak. And they got here before the bubble blew off. The bubble wasn't until the 20th. So this is a legit point on Tesla before the bubble as well. So that's a good trend line. And then we check that and we check this ascending kind of bubble bull market line here. So I guess we have, all right, let's circle some more things that are going on here at the Tesla chart. We have a gap here that hasn't been filled yet. And yeah, two trend lines to the upside. Okay, so I guess the bull case for Tesla is get above this line for now, and then bull activity underneath this is fine. I don't know if you need to get above that line. It's pretty steep, but ideally you want to get above this yellow line and use it as support for a bull market run. But there's two lines to go here, and so as someone long Tesla, this is not investment advice, just taking a look at the technical analysis ideas. And so you want to get above these things and use them as support. And there's two levels to break through here. So this is kind of a place to be cautious. If you're going long, it might be a good idea to go ahead and take profit here and then see if this turns into support before going long again. And then same thing with this line is take profit and then see if it gets to be support before you can use that as a support line. And then on the cyclical model, what we have right now, outside of Tesla and all their crazy drama with factories and tweets, and Elon Musk says it's overpriced, then it comes down, and it's crazy volatile stuff. So in the cyclical model from here, from Feb 20, we have a 3 to 4 month credit contraction cycle here, where the general market is going to generally, in a credit contraction cycle, go down and then kind of bounce and kind of bounce. And that's the kind of behavior you get in a credit contraction cycle. We got a really clear down move, and then we haven't seen a bounce unless something in here was a high middle bounce. You can't really see it on Tesla. I mean, there was a little bit of a downward move that maybe was the middle of the bubble or the middle of the contraction cycle. I'm not sure. So I've been trying to work on the timing for this thing and if and when it's going to turn over and how far down it can go if it turns over. And for the general S&P, we have a couple targets, but for Tesla, it's a little more crispy. We already tested this line, and so if the credit contraction cycle starts pulling down and Tesla looks for a move down, maybe off of this trend line, this is the immediate downward target here for kind of a C wave. So you get like an A, B, C, and then a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of wave, or 5, 6, 7 kind of wave maybe to the upside. And this is a really extended correction wave, or I guess impulse wave off of this correction wave down. And this probably would be another ABC down to here. That's sort of an Elliott wave kind of target for the bears here if the credit contraction cycle turns over. And then I don't know if we would get kind of like maybe a bounce and then a down move, or if the bounce was something in here and it's kind of a target out to the end of the cycle here, something like that. in the credit model for the Tesla look. Um, that or possibly a move up to this trend line in the cycle model, and then look for a correction wave down. Are kind of the bear looks using the credit contraction cycle. So as of right now, we have decreasing volume. Let's get volume on there. Let's see what the Tesla volume looks like. So the Tesla volume is not decreasing that much. Like the general S&P volume went absolutely nuts at the bottom here and has been chilling out a whole lot. And Tesla got pretty excited here on this reaction and getting more volume on this up move. And the MACD, let's take a look at the MACD. So this whole area here was super bullish for Tesla when you're up on top of the MACD. And then when you come down underneath here and get this, this is bearish, but it's switched right back. So when you get movements on this side of the MACD, that's bearish. And when you get movements on this side, it's bullish. And if you switch from up to down, that's bearish. And switching from down to up is bullish. And so Tesla right now is looking bullish, and it looks like it's kind of flattening out. And so this could turn over. I mean, the line's already touched and they're separating a little bit more. It's really hard to tell what's going on. So this could extend out a little bit more, or it could start to turn over. And the thing to look at on the MACD is if it does turn over, which I mean, it will turn over at some point, but the important thing is not if it turns over, it is where does it go when it turns over. So if it comes down and turns over and kind of bounces up here above the zero line, then that would be really bullish. And if it crosses down into this area, that would be bearish. So that's kind of the look on the MACD, and just zooming in on it is not really going to forecast if it's going to go up or down right now. Like if you get the crossover, usually that's going to be a turnover point, but it doesn't happen right away. Like here's the bottom, and it's not crossing over. This is a wide point, and it crosses over later here, and we get a wide point all the way back here on the MACD, and it almost crossed over and it didn't. So I'll switch over to the hourly. And let's see what the MACD looks like on the hourly. So here's all our crazy trend lines. And we're bullish here and still headed up on the immediate short term. So that looks like a good signal for kind of heading up. On open, possibly. But you see how the blue line is headed down towards the red line? That is an indicator that it might turn down soon. So it's pretty tricky. So maybe it'll open a little bit up, but it might turn over soon. And then if it turns over, same thing. You want to see if this stays in the bull half or if it switches over to the bear side. And so Tesla looks like a questionable one. It doesn't have a very clear trend as to whether it's going to go up or down. And there's a couple of trend lines here that are of immediate interest and resistance to the upside. So yeah, I think I was already saying it's probably a good time to kind of start taking profit on Tesla and see if we get support from these lines before getting excited again. And oh yeah, please hit the like button to help me out with the YouTube algorithm. And I have a new little subscribe button over here somewhere, I think, that I was working on. And let's go out to the let's go out to the wider let's go out to the weeklies and see kind of the long term outlook. So this will kind of get the idea of where Tesla is on the long term. And this is very bullish. So we had this last little bear trap here, kind of W shape. Was the last time that we were on the bear side on the very long term. This is kind of the yearly outlook. And now we've come down and it looks like we're turning up, crossed over and we're turning up. We're like completely on the bull side here and turning up. And that's all really bullish long term for Tesla on the long term MACD. So that's complicated. It's complicated, and it looks like this trend line, according to this MACD, this trend line is a real thing that Tesla wants to do. And we'll have to see how this credit contraction cycle plays out and see if we get reactions off of these lines and see if we're in a real bubble and see if fundamentals even matter anymore. Because Tesla fundamentals are pretty tricky. It's really hard to value this stock, and it is up. It's up in a bubble. This is a bubble. And increasing support lines. And so if this bubble comes down, you'll see the kind of general bubble behavior on the way down, which would be you backtest these lines and then you break the next one and kind of backtest it, and then this would be the floor, so you just kind of do that thing. But breaking these lines and backtesting them, and then you kind of terminate this tangent line. This is a tangent line for a wave, and the wave starts here and the wave would end here in the event that you're gonna come down off the bubble. That's how you do it. So this is a wave that starts here and would end wherever this would get terminated. And that's kind of how you set down a bubble. And we've been looking at the bubble on the S&P a lot. But this is a clear bubble. I mean, I just did a Facebook one, and Facebook doesn't have any increasing kind of trend lines like this. They just have one bull market line right from the start. But when you have these stacked increasing trend lines, that's a bubble. And generally, at some point, you come down off of the bubble. And that's what it looks like when you do. You tag the line, reverse, and then you end up breaking the next one and backtesting it and then reversing. So I think there is bubble risk here in Tesla. And I think the fundamentals of Tesla are the price is really high. It's a really high price. So I see a lot of risk here in Tesla. And I know fundamental people have tried to short Tesla and gotten in a lot of trouble. And cyclical would not really care that much about fundamentals. Cyclical is just saying like we're in this kind of cycle and we should be seeing down move and everything basically here. But when you get a down move, it's not in absolutely everything. Like there's going to be certain stocks and certain sectors that do okay and other ones that do much worse. Like the first part of the cycle, obviously oil and energy and travel absolutely tanked, but the industrials did well. And usually the industrials don't do that well in a contraction cycle. They're doing well now. So that might be added risk as well, that the industrials are so high and they usually don't do well in this cycle. So that's, let's see if there's anything else interesting to point out here. I really like using the MACD with cycles, and you can kind of team them up. And then also on the MACD, you can look at where you are on the momentum here. So this is swinging from down to up also, and this is in bullish territory. So the momentum, it looks like it's going up, and the action is all bullish. And let's go back to the hourly and see where the momentum is now. So the momentum here looks like it's on the way down, and you can see these lines converging. So from the momentum swings, this could look like a downward opening on Monday from the immediate momentum. And then if we go to the weekly or the 1 day candles, also on the green side and going down. So this is a lot of downward. This is too much downward indicators to feel comfortable probably with Tesla at this point. And it's already actually, if we draw the lines like that, I mean, this is a massive rejection off of these trend lines already. And so this could be kind of a shoulder topping pattern that doesn't even get back up here. So I would say Tesla's pretty risky at the moment, and it has this big gap here that generally those gaps are going to get filled. So that's the immediate target, is to just get into this gap. And then the next target would be this line here on the bear side. And just the topic of asymmetry, I suppose, here would be a good thing to point out, that more of the indicators look bearish than bullish here, but it's not clear what's going on. But the upside here is to kind of tag this line and use it as support. And the downside is to fill this gap, which is farther down. And then the next upside is to tag this line and use it as support. And the next downside is way down here on this line. So, I mean, you can see like 80% of the moves here is kind of to a big downside move. So it's, say it's a 50-50 chance of either one, or 60-40 down maybe. It looks slightly more bearish than bullish right now, but it's not clear. And so say it's just 50-50, 50% chance you go up a little bit and a 50% chance that you go down a lot. So the asymmetry is with the bears on this one, the percentages, and a little bit of the technicals are with the bears here. So I'm not super big on Tesla this week. And then of course in the news, and he's gonna move his headquarters out of California and maybe close that factory. And yeah, this lockdown is not good for Tesla. Like we were looking at Shopify and Amazon and Facebook, and those are all really good business models in the lockdown. They have cash and they have, their businesses people can do from home. It's so Tesla is not that way at all. Like their workers have to be at the factory, and they're selling expensive vehicles that people might not want to buy if things get tight. And so that's a look at Tesla. And I've talked about Tesla shorts before, and why people like to short Tesla so much and get in so much trouble is because they're an electric vehicle company, and electric vehicles historically have been unprofitable to the point that nobody wants to make them. And Tesla is taking on a very, very big task trying to make this profitable, and then also taking on a solar company under the Tesla umbrella that has been unprofitable. And so it's just risky kind of in energy and transportation sectors. There's a lot of risk here. There's a lot of risk, and in a credit contraction with not being able to sell vehicles, they could have balance sheet risk. Like I would imagine that the second quarter financials are not going to be as rosy as the Q1, and that's going to be for everybody. But I think that's going to be too late probably to find out if someone's in trouble by the time the Q2s come in, because we only have like a month and a half left here in this credit contraction cycle to see where we end up. And then the Q2 reports are going to be coming in later, after we've ended this credit contraction cycle and already reversed into expansion. And if Tesla or anyone else is going to get in trouble, it's going to be before the next quarterly stuff comes out. So what we have now, the Q1 reports that we have, that's all we get for the rest of this cycle. And then we have to really figure out if we're setting up a bear market or another bull trap, or if we're switching out into a bull market at the end of the cycle. And yeah, I guess that's the outlook on Tesla. I think that's probably good enough for this one. This is not investment advice. Please hit the like button and my little subscribe bear thing over here. And I don't think there's anything else to point out here. This is a really interesting chart. I mean, this thing has like an entire whole life of its own. I know that Shopify had sort of a similar bubble thing going on like this. And I always see that as risky, but it's also when you're on a bubble, you can make big gains in a short amount of time. And the way that this goes up is each trend line is increasing in the angle, or this way, and they get shorter in time as you go up. So, I mean, for instance, like if you stretch it out, it doesn't seem like that steep of an angle. And then you could end up, like if we got up here or something, it's possible to go on a steeper bubble here, but it would be a shorter trend line. And then as you get shorter and steeper peaks, you would end up with a blow off top like we got in the everything bubble on the whole S&P back here. Because you keep getting these increasing and shorter, bubble lines, and that's when the bubble pops. And that's when you start checking and back testing these trend lines and seeing where the real price is. And on the way down, it can be a lot faster than on the way up. So I would say Tesla is a bubble, and I think their price valuation is overpriced just based on the fundamentals in the auto industry and the price of the other auto stocks. I mean, the other auto stocks are like $20 a share or something like that, and they're making more profitable gas vehicles. But the outlook to the future is really good for Tesla, because gas, well, I don't know, it's so complicated. I don't know when we might get a switch from gas to kind of electric, because I mean, this crisis may speed that up. I mean, this crisis is definitely speeding up the switch from like brick and mortar stores to online shopping. That's for sure. But the shift from gas to alternative energy may be accelerated here. But as of now, the alternative energy is less profitable, and the whole world uses oil, and it's a major like backing of the entire monetary system. So I would say the switch over away from gas would probably go hand in hand with like a decline in the dollar and some things shifting on the world stage, like deglobalization happening, and then you see like more of the online shopping. That's kind of the outlook for which companies probably will be doing better over the next 5 or 10 years. Are the companies that are kind of aligned with that switch to deglobalization and different energy, and all the online services, which some of that is obvious, but the energy sector is a little bit trickier. And Tesla is fighting against big oil and gas, and I wonder what the government considers them. I wonder if they think that Tesla is like a sort of like an essential infrastructure business at this point, because it was. I mean, he also, SpaceX is government contractor, and I bet the government would consider Tesla if it got in trouble. I bet Tesla would get a bailout because, well, I mean, they give bailouts to everyone, but anyone that asks for it. But I think that the government would be considering Tesla necessary infrastructure for kind of the future of energy and transportation. I would imagine they would try to keep Tesla going if they got in trouble. Yeah, okay, that's plenty. All right, sorry, I'm just like going on and on and on here, and hopefully that's interesting, and we covered a lot of things. And I don't think there's any other news about Tesla other than they're gonna try to leave California, and I mean, I think that makes sense because I think California, the state of California, is in a bit of trouble, and it's just really hard to do business and pay tax and everything in California and pay all the workers in California. So I think there's going to be a decline in California in general. The real estate markets are overvalued, and the taxes are insane, and the state is just bankrupt, and the federal government is having to print money to keep them going every year. So there might be a correction to the state, and there's some things changing now. It's hard to picture how well Tesla's positioned and everything. I mean, if they're having to leave California and people are less interested in their luxury cars, I mean, they can eventually transition into whatever works. I mean, producing cheaper cars and infrastructure and stuff like that, but they're not really set up right now to immediately provide a service that would match a fast change in everything. And it seems like we're getting a pretty fast change in everything because, I mean, they have to move factories and change their production uh, outlooks and all kinds of things. It's not so fast to do that in a massive manufacturing business. But the MACD says that they're very bullish long term. So that's a different look from the from the fundamental look. The MACD and the fundamentals don't always align, and the MACD usually wins. So that is Tesla this week, and it's a risk, and it's always interesting. And I really like using Tesla to kind of to sort of forecast the market because Tesla will get hyperbolic kind of moves that are sort of forecast switches that'll come in the general market, and it's a really interesting stock. And Elon Musk is a very interesting character, and happy trading.